Hello and welcome to Sabina Reefing. Today we're going to be talking about my quarantine tanks that I quarantine fish for this 300-gallon aquarium. So one of the hard things to get through my head on quarantine was the fact that I A, needed it, and B, I probably need to do it myself. I purchased fish many times and had really good luck at the very beginning, and then I, just like everyone else that's been in the hobby for a long period of time, got a couple fish that caused a couple of wipeouts. I'll link a card up here in the beginning. I had a little line in there where I say, I will never not quarantine again. Well, maybe never was not the perfect term to use on that, because later on I decided that even better, I'll pay someone else to quarantine it. And this was a great idea. I tried two different people, and one of the times the person couldn't get them out of quarantine. They kept passing away. The other person got them through quarantine, and they came into my tank, and my hippo tang had a growth on its tail. The Potter's Angel died day one. There was just quite a mortality rate, and I ended up getting ick. So that's not ideal. So I decided to start quarantining myself again. One thing a lot of people worry about when it comes to quarantining is how difficult is it to take care of 2 or 3 or 4 more aquariums, because if you're going to be quarantining, often you don't want just to add one fish, so you might add 5 or 6 tanks. This can be a problem. Yeah, it's a lot of work to add extra tanks, which is why I don't do 5 or 6. 2 is the maximum I'm willing to take care of for quarantining, and I have a couple tricks that I used to make it easier on me to take care of a quarantine tank. So one of the things a lot of people worry about when it comes to quarantine tanks is how difficult is it? Well, it's as difficult as you make it. For me, this is the setup that worked for me. You can see at the back of the aquarium, I have a float valve directly hooked up to my RO system. It sits in my garage, so if my float valve ever does fail, it puts water on concrete, not that big of a deal. I drilled a hole in the back and attached a 1/2-inch line, so that way I can make doing my water changes very simple. I start a siphon, pumps out all of the water, or about 60% of the water, in order to do a water change, which is something you should do on a quarantine tank. That's a minimum piece of maintenance that you need for quarantine tanks. These tanks don't have long-standing out bacteria, and they often don't have enough surface area, which you can see in my aquarium. I added a bunch of surface area with these biomedia bricks. But even then, I still do water changes. These tanks get fairly dirty, and you don't have a lot of coral and plants uptaking all of this excess nutrients. I believe in feeding your quarantined fish heavily, so that also means that you have to do some maintenance and do some water changes. My personal plan is to just make it easy. When building your quarantine system, there's 3 main things that you need. 1, you're gonna need the bucket or the tank that you're actually putting in. I always recommend a glass tank. They're easy to maintain, and if you get them at the dollar sale at Petco or whatever big box store that you buy your aquarium stuff from, you're usually talking about $5 to $20. That's a small investment when we're talking about $50 to $100 to $200 or $1,000 fish. Even if you're doing a $10 fish, these are your pets. You should take care of them, and spending an extra $20 on a quarantine system really isn't too much. The next thing that you're obviously going to need is some type of filtration and way to get water motion inside the aquarium. I like to use these little sponge filters. The sponge filters do a great job of aerating the water, breaking the surface tension, adding a bunch of surface area, and they're cheap and they're easy, and there's no electronics down in the aquarium to cause a problem. The last is a heater. You have to keep these tanks warm. Fish will freeze whether they're inside your house or outside. I like to go double what the wattage that I think it is needing to be. You're right, I don't like to go that high on big aquariums, because if it fails in the on position, it's a wipeout for all your coral and everything. Well, one of the risks on small aquariums is that it starts getting too cold, and then the disease does not progress. So I want to keep that temperature nice and high the entire time. Here in California, it still gets down into the 30s at night in winter. So I'm running about 200 watts of heat in a 20-gallon tank. That's a lot, I know, but it helps progress the disease and make sure that my water temperature always stays up there. I want to see the disease before the disease gets in this 300-gallon aquarium. Thank you for watching this episode of Sabina Reefing. What do you do for quarantining? Tell me in the survey up above. I'm also going to have 2 videos right here that Google thinks you might like, and click the subscribe button if you want to see some more. Thank you for watching.